I was sitting in the makeup chair under those cold studio lights, staring into the mirror, wondering how long I'd been lying to myself. The stylist was brushing powder across my forehead, talking about something. I don't remember what. Probably traffic or weather or some celebrity breakup. I nodded, smiled, gave the same polite chuckle I've given 1,000 times before. After 30 years in television, I'd mastered the art of pretending. But today was different. Today, I was going to stop pretending. My name is Michael Sloan. I'm 52 years old, co-anchor of Wake Up Chicago, one of the top-rated morning news shows in the Midwest. For the past 12 years, I've started every weekday morning with a smile, a suit, and a list of headlines. People trust me. They let me into their homes before they've had their first sip of coffee. They think I'm calm, dependable, grounded. But what they don't see, what they can't see, is the man I've become off camera. A man who's been watching his marriage fall apart in silence. It all came to a head last night. It was nearly midnight when I opened my email and saw it. A message from an unlisted address. No subject line, no message body, just 3 photos. My wife, Jessica, in a booth at a restaurant I didn't recognize, leaning close to a man across from her, laughing, holding his hand. And in the last one, God help me, her lips against his neck. That man. His name is Gary Martin. My producer. That's right. The same man I've worked with for the past 5 years. The guy who stood beside me at our family barbecue last summer, flipping burgers and smiling like he belonged there. The guy who toasted our anniversary in the control room just 8 months ago with a cheap bottle of champagne and that smug little grin of his. The betrayal hit like a slow-motion car crash. I sat there at the kitchen table, phone in one hand, heart pounding out of my chest, and I didn't say a word. No yelling, no crying, no smashing a chair through the wall like you see in movies. I just sat there and let the weight of it settle over me. And as heavy as it was, there was something beneath it. Something sharp. Something solid. Resolve. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't beg. I wouldn't even confront them. Not yet. Because I knew something they didn't. I had the microphone. Jessica and I have been married for 18 years. Or maybe I should say we were. We built a life together. 2 kids, a home in Oak Park, shared bills, shared dreams. But somewhere along the way, she found something more exciting. Something newer. Or younger. Or whatever Gary is. She always loved the spotlight more than she admitted. A few years ago, she started a family blog, The Sloans Unfiltered. It was cute at first. Morning routines, cooking videos, family game nights. Nothing controversial. But then the views started climbing. Sponsors showed up. And suddenly, I wasn't her husband anymore. I was content. She started cutting me out of the narrative. You're too stiff, she said. The audience wants real. But that didn't stop her from using my name, my face, my career to boost her brand. Meanwhile, Gary started hanging around more, helping with lighting, offering social media advice, staying late, bringing her coffee with that slick, rehearsed charm. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But I didn't want to believe it. I thought maybe we were just in a rough patch. I thought I'd win her back if I worked a little harder, gave her more space, took her on more dates, said, I love you more often. But some people don't want love. They want attention. So last week, I hired a private investigator. Told him I needed answers. Not for a court case. Not for revenge. Just so I could stop lying to myself. The photos were the final piece. And now here I am, sitting under bright lights. Suit pressed. Tie knotted. Microphone clipped to my lapel. Jessica is probably at home, scheduling another live stream. Gary is 3 rooms away in the control booth, sipping coffee, thinking I'm too spineless to do anything. They don't know me at all. The countdown begins. In 5, 4, 3. The music plays. The lights go hot. I smile. Good morning, Chicago. I'm Michael Sloan. It's 7:01 a.m. Let's start the day. But today isn't just another day. Today, I'm the headline. From the outside, we were the picture of American success. Jessica and I had a beautiful colonial-style home in Oak Park. 2 kids, Andrew and Chloe, now both in college. A golden retriever named Marley who used to make appearances in her YouTube vlogs. Our yard was always cut, the porch decorated every season, and the Christmas card photos came out so polished you'd think we were sponsored by Hallmark. And in a way, we were. That's how Jessica built her brand, on the illusion of perfect family life. It started small. A couple of videos shot on her phone. Mom hacks for busy mornings, or our Sunday cleaning routine. Nothing groundbreaking. But her voice was warm, her smile photogenic, and she had this ability to make strangers feel like she was their best friend. It took off faster than either of us expected. First, a few thousand followers. Then sponsors. Companies sending free products for her to unbox. I remember the first check that came in with 6 zeros. She showed it to me with wide eyes like a kid who found treasure in the backyard. "I think this could be something real," she said. And it was. For her. But for me, I became a prop. Early on, she asked me to be in the videos. Just sit beside me during this couple Q&A. I didn't mind. It was fun at first. People seemed to like us. "You two are adorable," they'd comment. #couple goals. But as the following grew, my role shrank. She'd edit me out of shots. Turn the camera more toward herself. "It just works better with the framing," she'd say. When she started filming sponsored segments with Gary, I wasn't even asked to join. "You're too stiff on camera," she told me one night, brushing me off like a stagehand who wandered into the scene. It didn't happen all at once. That's the thing about slow betrayals. They don't feel like betrayal at first. It just feels like distance. Like maybe you're being paranoid. But I wasn't paranoid. I was watching my wife replace our marriage with a marketing campaign. I remember the day I realized she was no longer talking to me, only about me. She was doing a live stream in the kitchen. I had just walked in from work, loosened my tie, and started to say hello. She raised a finger, silencing me. Then, smiling at the camera, she said, "Michael just got home from work. Look at him, always so serious." The audience laughed in the chat. She called me Mr. Newsman, like it was some running joke. But it wasn't a joke to me. That moment stuck. That's when I realized I wasn't her husband anymore. I was a punchline. Gary, on the other hand, was always framed perfectly. Always got the best lighting, the most flattering captions. "Gary helping out again. What would we do without him?" She wrote once under a video where he fixed a light bulb in the studio. I was sitting across the room when she posted it. I remember looking at her and thinking, is this still the woman I married? The Jessica I fell in love with used to get nervous speaking in front of people. She'd trip over her words when reading out loud, blush during presentations. She was kind, thoughtful, a little shy, even. This new version? She was polished, confident, and cold. Everything had to be curated. The meals, the photos, the outfits. Even our kids were asked to reshoot spontaneous moments. Chloe once rolled her eyes and said, "Mom, this is fake. Can't we just be a family?" Jessica laughed it off, but I couldn't. The more her world grew online, the more mine shrank. I was still waking up at 4 a.m. to host the show, still driving home in traffic, still paying bills, fixing leaks, mowing the lawn. She was posting pictures of cappuccinos with captions like, "Just a simple wife loving life #blessed. Blessed? Maybe once. Now it felt like I was living with a business partner who had already decided to sell her share. That's when I started pulling away. Quietly. I didn't tell her I stopped watching her videos. Didn't say anything when she forgot our anniversary. I just started noticing more. Listening closer. I started seeing Gary's car parked out front when I came home early. I'd hear them laughing in the kitchen, her laugh, light and flirty, the kind I hadn't heard in years. When I walked in, it stopped. She'd kiss my cheek like it meant nothing. But I knew better. She thought I'd never find out. She forgot I read people for a living. I tell the news. I've sat across from governors, CEOs, criminals. I can hear lies in their pauses. See guilt in the way their eyes shift. Jessica had started pausing too much. And Gary? He never looked me in the eye anymore. They say betrayal happens all at once. They're wrong. Betrayal happens in stages. Like a slow leak in a pipe behind a wall. You don't see it at first. You just notice the floor feels soft. Then the paint starts to bubble. By the time you open the wall, the damage is done. That's what it was like with Jessica. It didn't happen the day I got the photos. It didn't even start when I noticed her getting distant. It started way before that, back when I was too busy to notice she'd already moved on. I used to think if you provided, if you stayed faithful, if you were there every night, you were doing enough. Turns out, that's just the minimum. And for someone like Jessica, the minimum was never enough. I didn't want to believe it at first. That's the hardest part. You don't want to be the guy who gets cheated on. You don't want to be the fool. So you tell yourself it's work, stress, hormones, anything but what it actually is. I made excuses for her, good ones. She's exhausted, I'd think. She's just focused on the brand. She still loves me. She's just distracted. But I stopped believing my own lies the night I came home early from a Friday shoot. We'd wrapped sooner than expected, so I didn't call ahead. I figured I'd surprise her. Maybe pick up takeout. I remember it was raining. I pulled into the driveway, headlights cutting through the water, and saw Gary's car parked outside. Again, my heart started thudding. Not in panic, not in rage. Just a dull, steady beat like a warning bell. I sat there in the driver's seat and watched the house for a minute. No movement, no light in the front windows. But the living room curtain was slightly open, and for a split second, I saw her silhouette pass by. Then his. That was the night I stopped pretending. I didn't go inside. I didn't confront her. I didn't want some teary apology or a half-baked excuse. I wanted the truth, and not just the emotional kind. I wanted something I could hold, something solid, something that couldn't be spun or softened or edited to fit a brand. So I made a call. A friend of mine from college, David Romano, works private investigations now, mostly corporate cases, fraud, insurance, that kind of thing. But I trusted him, told him everything. He didn't say much, just asked for a few details. Their schedules, their habits, photos of Gary, access to Jessica's calendar. Within 3 days, he had enough to know something was off. She's meeting him, he said. Regularly. Always mid-afternoon. Always at a hotel downtown. He sent me the name. I didn't even have to ask if it was discreet. David's old school. Ex-military. Quiet. The kind of guy who gets answers without making noise. I gave him the green light. And then I waited. During that week, Jessica barely noticed me. She was busy filming a Clean With Me series for her channel. Talking to the camera like everything was fine. Wearing makeup to mop the floors. Smiling like she was living the dream. Meanwhile, I sat on the couch behind the scenes watching, but not really there. Just a piece of furniture in her perfect little set. The kids noticed, though. Andrew texted me from college. Said mom hadn't called in weeks. Chloe stopped tagging her in photos. She told me she was tired of being content. I didn't tell them what was going on. Not yet. The photos came in on a Thursday night. David dropped a manila envelope on my porch and didn't even wait around. Inside were printouts. Dozens of them. Jessica walking into the Palmer House Hotel at 2:17 p.m. Gary arriving 10 minutes later. A shot of them leaving 3 hours after, her hair messy, shirt untucked. His hand on the small of her back. Then another series. A different day. Same routine. Different hotel. Each photo felt like a nail in the coffin. Not just of my marriage, but of the life I thought I had. I laid them out across the dining table, one by one. Studied them under the light. No more lies. No more what-ifs. I didn't cry. Didn't scream. I felt empty. But underneath that emptiness, something started to form. Not rage. Not sorrow. Something colder. Purpose. I was done being the silent one. Done playing the fool. She wanted to perform for the world? Fine. I was going to give her the stage. But this time, the spotlight would be mine. I didn't plan revenge the way people imagine it in movies. There were no late-night maps or secret meetings. No music swelling in the background. Just a quiet Tuesday, a legal pad, and a pen in my hand. The photos sat in a neat folder on the kitchen table. I'd already flipped through them twice that morning. I wasn't looking for more proof. I had enough to end the marriage 10 times over. What I needed now was a way to end it on my terms. Clean. Controlled. Final. You see, men like Gary and Jessica, they don't expect quiet men like me to fight back. They think we crumble. Hide. Drink too much. Rage behind closed doors until we disappear from our own lives. But I've built a career on clarity. I read headlines without flinching. Interviewed murderers. Sat across from mayors during corruption scandals and made them sweat with nothing but a raised eyebrow. And now? I was going to use that calm the same way I always have on camera. First, I called my lawyer, Walter Pierce. Known him for 20 years. Good man. No nonsense. He picked up on the second ring. You ready to make it official? He asked. I didn't need to ask how he knew. Yeah, I said. But I want it clean. No leaks. No surprises. I'll handle it, he replied. You want to serve her at home? No, I said. I'll handle that myself. Next, I called Dan, my floor director at the station. Told him I was planning a special segment for next Friday, a personal story. Human interest. Said it was about honesty, about knowing when to let go. Dan didn't press. He just nodded through the phone and asked, need extra camera coverage? Just the usual. But I want it live. He paused. You sure? Positive. Then I went to the studio. Not to rehearse, not to prep for the show, but to test the sound. I stood at the anchor desk, staring into the black lens of camera one. That lens had been a part of my life longer than most of my friendships. I'd spent more time talking to that machine than to my own kids during their teenage years. Mic check, 1, 2, I said into the silence. But this time, I wasn't testing for sound. I was testing myself. Could I say it? Could I actually sit there, look into that lens, and tell the world that the woman everyone adored online was the same woman who'd been sneaking into hotel rooms with the man who produced our morning news? I didn't flinch. That night, I went home and stood outside our bedroom door while Jessica filmed herself doing a self-care routine in the bathroom mirror. Ring light glowing. Phone perched perfectly. Voice light and airy as she listed products and fake smiles. She didn't even notice me standing there. When she finally turned around, I was already walking away. She called after me, "Everything okay?" I nodded. "Just tired." She went back to filming. That's when I started writing the script. Not for the segment. For my announcement. I wasn't going to rant. I wasn't going to accuse. That would have made me look bitter, jealous, emotional. No, I was going to deliver it like news. Just the facts. My name is Michael Sloan. I've been married for 18 years. My wife is a content creator you may know. Recently, I discovered she's been in a relationship with my producer. I've filed for divorce. This is not a story I ever wanted to tell, but it's the truth. I rehearsed it in my head for days. In the car. In the shower. While brushing my teeth. And every time, I got a little calmer. A little more sure of myself. At the studio, I met with HR behind closed doors. Told them everything. Showed them the photos. Not because I wanted Gary fired, no. I wanted them to know what he'd done. I wanted it on record. When I walked past his desk later that week, he gave me a nod. Same fake smile. Same coffee breath. I nodded back. He didn't have a clue. That Friday, Jessica kissed me on the cheek before I left. "Say hi to everyone at the station," she said. I looked her right in the eye. "I will." She smiled. Clueless. Still thinking I was the fool. She didn't know the cameras were already rolling. That the studio was already set. That the countdown had already begun. Friday morning started like any other. The studio lights buzzed to life before sunrise. The crew moved with that same half-awake rhythm we'd all fallen into over the years, coffee in one hand, script in the other, barely looking at each other until the third cup kicked in. I walked through the side entrance, nodded at security, hung my coat in the same spot I'd hung it for a decade. Nothing felt different, but everything had changed. Inside my blazer pocket was a folded card. Heavy stock. Simple lettering. Final script. Segment 3. It wasn't in the teleprompter. I told Dan not to load it. I'd read it myself. Straight from the page. No edits. No rehearsals. Just truth. Gary passed me in the hallway on the way to the control room. "Segment 2 looks good," he said. "You want to bump weather a minute to give that small business piece more room?" I looked him dead in the eye. "Let's give it the time it deserves." He smiled, completely unaware. There's something surreal about watching the man who's sleeping with your wife casually adjust your show's rundown, as if he owns it, like none of it matters. He thought I didn't know. He thought I'd never know. But the clock was ticking. I walked onto the set at 6:57 a.m. The countdown had begun. Camera 1, straight ahead. Camera 2, to my left. Teleprompter already loaded with our top stories, local fires, a school board scandal, a feel-good piece about dogs at the airport. And then a segment 3. My segment. The final one. The theme music started. My co-anchor, Vanessa, smiled over at me. "You good?" she asked. "Never better," I said. We went live. The first 20 minutes went by like any other show. I read headlines. Nodded at the right moments. Asked follow-ups. Tossed to the weather team. The audience saw the same Michael Sloan they'd seen every weekday morning for 12 years. And then Dan's voice crackled into my earpiece. "Segment 3. Go for it." Camera 1 locked onto me. I looked into that lens, steady and calm. And I began. "Before we go to break, I want to share something personal." Vanessa turned her head slightly, confused. She hadn't been told. I've always believed journalism is about truth. It's about telling the story, no matter how hard or uncomfortable. And today, that includes mine. The studio fell completely silent. Even the floor director lowered his clipboard. For the past 18 years, I've been married to a woman many of you know, Jessica Sloan. She's been a presence in our city and on social media, sharing what looked like a happy family and a loving marriage. I paused. But not everything online is as it seems. The words echoed in the silence like thunder. Earlier this month, I discovered that my wife has been in a relationship with someone I work closely with. Someone I trusted. My producer, Gary Martin. A sound behind the camera, something dropping. Probably Gary's coffee. I kept going. I won't go into details. I won't name call. But I will say this. I've filed for divorce. And I've taken steps to ensure my story is not rewritten or rebranded for the sake of views. The silence in the studio was deafening. I want to thank the viewers who've supported me all these years. This job has never been just a job. It's been a calling. And part of that calling is to stand for something even when it hurts. I looked away from the lens for a moment, straight at the crew, at Gary's empty chair in the booth, at the stunned faces behind the monitors. Then I finished. Don't believe everything you see online. But do believe this. I'm not broken. I'm not angry. I'm free. And I'll see you Monday. Fade to commercial. Dan's voice came through my earpiece, tight and low. Cut. I took off my mic and stood. Nobody spoke. Vanessa reached for my arm. Michael, what just happened? The truth, I said. I walked off the set. Gary wasn't in the control room anymore. Jessica's name started trending within minutes. And by noon, her sponsors began dropping off. That night, I sat alone in the house, watching the footage back once. Just once. Not to relive it, but to confirm I did it exactly how I wanted to, without shouting, without shame. She had the camera for years. This time, I used it. By noon, it was everywhere. Clips of the broadcast had been uploaded, downloaded, clipped, stitched, and shared more times than I could count. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, even the late-night shows got wind of it. Anchor delivers divorce like breaking news, one headline read. TV host calls out cheating wife and producer on air with class. I didn't post anything. Didn't answer calls. Didn't make a statement. The broadcast was my statement. That was the beauty of it. I said exactly what needed to be said. Once. And then I went quiet. Jessica, on the other hand, didn't take long to speak. By 3 p.m., she had a tearful video on her Instagram story. Face bare, voice cracking, piano music playing softly in the background. A statement crafted not from guilt, but from strategy. I never wanted to hurt anyone, she said, blinking toward the ring light. Michael and I have been growing apart for a long time. This situation is complicated, and I ask that you respect our privacy as we navigate this as a family. She didn't deny it. She didn't say my name, either. Just this situation. Her followers flooded the comments, half of them offering support, the other half tearing her apart. Some unsubscribed. Others reposted the clip from the broadcast with captions like, "We believed your lie." By evening, 3 of her brand deals were gone. By morning, 2 more had followed. Gary? He didn't come back to the station. HR announced his departure that Monday with a generic email. We thank Gary Martin for his time and contributions to the network and wish him well in his future endeavors. No one clapped. No one replied. The show moved on. Dan promoted an assistant producer to fill his spot. I didn't comment. I just kept showing up, reading the news, doing my job. That's what people didn't understand about me, and maybe what they never understood about men like me. We don't chase. We don't scream in hallways or send threats or throw punches in parking lots. We endure. And when the time is right, we speak. Clearly. Finally. And without apology. The kids called that weekend. Andrew was the first. Dad, I saw what you did. Are you okay? I told him the truth. I'm better than I've been in years. He didn't press. Just said he was proud of me. Then Chloe. She cried. She said it wasn't personal, she whispered. I closed my eyes and steadied my voice. It was personal to me. I told her what I told the world, that I wasn't out to ruin anyone. I just wasn't going to live in a lie anymore. They understood. They stayed on my side. That meant more than I could ever explain. By Sunday afternoon, a neighbor dropped off a pie. Another left a note on my porch that said, "Your calm gave me courage." Even strangers emailed the station. One man from Phoenix wrote, "Thank you for reminding us that dignity still exists." Funny thing is, I wasn't trying to make a statement. I just wanted to stop disappearing in my own life. I'd spent years being quiet, accommodating, holding things together for someone who had already let go. Now, I was done holding. On Monday, I walked into the studio and everything felt lighter. Vanessa looked over at me during the show and gave a half smile. "You sure you're okay?" I nodded. I meant every word. She didn't ask anything else. Didn't need to. Halfway through the broadcast, I caught my reflection on the monitor. Still me, still steady, but something had shifted. Not the face. Not the suit. Something deeper. I wasn't performing anymore. This wasn't the image of a perfect man with a perfect life. This was a man who lost everything fake and finally found something real. By Wednesday, the noise started to fade. The internet moved on to the next scandal. Jessica's view counts dipped. Her engagement dropped. Gary was reportedly working freelance, out of state, probably somewhere no one recognized his face. But me? I stayed right where I was. Every morning at 7:01, I looked into the camera and spoke with the same voice I'd always used. But now, people listened differently. Maybe because they knew the man behind the mic wasn't playing a role anymore. Maybe because the truth, when spoken calmly, cuts deeper than rage ever could. Or maybe because for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid to be seen. It was almost 2 weeks after the broadcast when Jessica showed up at the station. No warning. No text. No heads up from security. I was just finishing the second segment, something light about a dog that learned how to skateboard, when Dan leaned into my dressing room and said, "She's here." I didn't have to ask who. I nodded, took a breath, and straightened my tie. I didn't feel anger. Not even anxiety. Just clarity. They led her to the green room. I let her sit there for a full 10 minutes before I walked in. She stood when I entered, like we were meeting for lunch. She was dressed casual but calculated. Jeans, white sweater, no makeup, like she was auditioning for humility. "Michael," she said quietly. "Thank you for seeing me." I didn't respond. She glanced around the room, then slowly sat back down. "I know I owe you 1,000 apologies," she said. "And I know I probably don't deserve even 1 minute of your time. But I needed to say something in person, not for the cameras. Just real." I sat across from her but didn't lean forward, didn't soften. "Go ahead." Her eyes started to glisten. Whether it was real or part of the show, I couldn't tell. And honestly, I didn't care. "I messed up," she said, voice cracking just enough. I lost track of what mattered. I got caught up in all of it, the followers, the deals, the pressure to keep it all perfect. And I told myself it wasn't hurting anyone, that we were already distant, that it didn't matter. I waited. I didn't expect you to handle it the way you did. I thought you'd lash out or disappear. But you took back the truth. And part of me respects that. Part of you," I said flatly. She looked down. "I've lost everything, Michael. The sponsors are gone. The channel's dying. The comments are brutal. People I thought were friends won't return my calls." She looked up. "I just want to talk. Really talk. Not as creators or parents or whatever we became, but as the two people who used to sit on the floor and eat frozen pizza at midnight because we couldn't afford furniture." For a second, I felt the old memory tug. I remembered that version of us. Young, laughing, tired, in love. But that version of her? She left long before Gary ever showed up. I leaned forward slightly. "Let me ask you something," I said. "If I never found out, would you still be here right now? Would you be trying to fix anything?" She opened her mouth, then stopped. That was enough of an answer. "I didn't come here to hurt you," she whispered. "You just didn't care if you did." She looked like she wanted to argue, to explain, to rewind the tape somehow. But I was done with rewinds. I stood. She didn't follow. "I'm not angry anymore," I said quietly. "And I don't hate you. That would require energy I no longer owe you. But I won't pretend what we had still exists. I didn't come to win you back." I looked her in the eye. "Good. Because the man you were married to isn't sitting here anymore." Her face tightened. She blinked hard and nodded. As I turned to leave, she said one last thing. "I hope you find peace." I didn't look back. I already did. Back in the hallway, Dan was waiting. "She okay?" he asked. "She'll be fine," I said. She always lands on her feet. Later that night, I walked into my house, the same house that once felt like a stage set. But it didn't feel like that anymore. The ring light was gone. The fake plants she used for aesthetics were boxed up. The fridge was full of normal food again. No labeled jars or influencer snacks. Just eggs, milk, leftovers, and quiet. But not the kind of quiet that eats you alive. The kind that finally lets you breathe. I sat at the kitchen table, looked across at the empty chair she used to sit in, and felt nothing. Not anger. Not grief. Just space. Room for something new. Maybe not someone new, not yet. That would come when it came. But I was no longer haunted by the sound of her phone buzzing under the covers. I no longer waited for laughter from another room that didn't include me. That chair across from me, it wasn't empty because something was missing. It was empty because I'd finally made room for myself. It was a Thursday evening when the final nail hit. I wasn't watching it live. I didn't have to. The notifications started before the broadcast ended. Texts, emails, missed calls. Even Dan left a message. Turn on channel 4. You're not going to believe this. By the time I pulled up the recording, the clip was already online. It wasn't mine this time. It was Jessica's. She'd booked a sit-down interview with a local lifestyle host, someone who never asked hard questions. The kind of show built around recipes, dog rescues, and healing journeys. I pressed play. She sat there, all dressed down again, sweater, loose curls, soft lighting. The same script. The same practice tone. I was broken, she said. I was lost in an image of who I thought I had to be. I felt alone in my marriage. I didn't feel seen. The host nodded, wide-eyed and sympathetic. And that led you to Gary? She lowered her head. It wasn't about Gary. It was about feeling needed. I know what I did was wrong. I take full responsibility. But I also think it's important people understand the pressures we face when we live our lives online. I paused the video. Not because I was angry. Because I was tired. She wasn't done lying. She was just changing the shape of the lie. And this time, I wasn't going to sit back. I sent one message. To a contact at a national affiliate who'd been reaching out since the day I made my on-air announcement. I'm ready. By noon the next day, the promo ran. Tomorrow night, Michael Sloan, his first and only full interview. No teasers. No drama. Just one promise. The truth. I didn't rehearse. Didn't polish it up. I sat in a chair across from a journalist I respected and told my story, start to finish. The silence in the room said everything. I didn't lose my wife to another man, I said. I lost her to a mirror. She fell in love with the version of herself she created online and forgot the life we'd built offline. The interviewer leaned forward. Do you think she ever loved you? I nodded. Once. But I think she loved being loved more. The segment aired Friday night at 8 p.m. By Saturday morning, it had over 2 million views. And the comments? Different this time. Not just support, but recognition. Men writing in to say, I thought I was crazy for noticing the signs. Women saying, thank you for showing it's possible to leave with grace. Even a few brand executives chimed in, not by name, but their message was clear. We stand with truth. Jessica's sponsorships didn't just fade, they evaporated. 3 major companies released statements distancing themselves. One removed her photo from their homepage within hours of the broadcast. Her follower count dropped by the tens of thousands. PR crisis managers jumped in, but the damage was done. Because this time, the public had context. This time, she wasn't just an influencer caught in a personal mistake. She was a woman who lied with a ring light and cried with a sales code at the bottom of the screen. And the world saw it. The divorce finalized the following week. Clean. Quiet. Legal documents filed and signed. I kept the house. The cars. The retirement. She didn't contest it. Probably because she knew the court of public opinion had already ruled. She moved out of state shortly after. I didn't ask where. I didn't care. That weekend, I stood alone in my backyard, staring up at the same porch light we used to hang Christmas garland on together. The wind rustled through the trees. No cameras. No scripts. Just me. And I realized something. I wasn't grieving anymore. Not the marriage. Not the betrayal. Not even the years I lost pretending everything was fine. I had made peace with it all. And in that peace, I found something stronger than revenge. I found relief. Not because she paid the price, though she did, but because I didn't lose myself in the process. I spoke once. I let the truth breathe. And I walked away whole. The last time I saw Jessica in person was in that green room at the studio. But I heard about her, now and then, through mutual acquaintances, people who used to go to the same events, the same neighborhood meetups, the same charity dinners we once hosted together. People still talked. It didn't take long for the rest of her world to fall apart. After the national interview aired, brands began scrubbing their pages clean. Sponsorships dried up overnight. The posts she was paid to make, skincare routines, discount codes, product reviews, they all vanished. What didn't vanish were the comments. They piled up under every post she hadn't deleted yet. Some were angry, others were mocking. But the ones that cut deepest, I imagine, were the ones that saw through her. You built a life off his name. You were never honest. We trusted you. For someone who made a living off being relatable, exposure was lethal. And the worst part? She had no one left to spin it for her. Gary had disappeared. He didn't stick around for the fallout. Word was, he moved out of state. No job lined up, No family nearby. I heard through a colleague he was crashing on a friend's couch in Phoenix, trying to get freelance work in video editing. Apparently, betrayal isn't a great resume builder. Jessica tried to pivot, rebranding herself as a woman, finding her strength, turning her platform into a so-called healing space. But the numbers didn't lie. No one was listening. She posted less and less. Then she stopped altogether. Her last post was a still photo of an empty beach, captioned, "Sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself again." And maybe that's true. But sometimes you lose everything because you thought you were smarter than the people who trusted you. I didn't comment. I didn't like it. I didn't care. The silence between us was no longer heavy, it was earned. Legally, she walked away with almost nothing. My attorney had built an airtight case. Between the infidelity clause in our prenup and the timeline of her online activity, there wasn't much left to fight over. She forfeited the house, the car, the accounts. It wasn't punishment, it was paperwork. But what she really lost wasn't money or assets. It was the illusion of power. Jessica spent years thinking she was untouchable, that her smile could smooth over cracks, that a good filter and a soft voice could erase damage. But the internet doesn't forget, and real people don't either. One of the most surreal moments came months later, at a local grocery store. I was standing in the checkout line when a woman tapped me on the shoulder. Mid-50s. Polished. Eyes kind. "You're Michael Sloan, right?" I nodded. She didn't ask for a photo or a signature. She just said, "You did something most men don't. You told the truth without trying to destroy someone. And you didn't let her destroy you." That stuck with me. Because that was the difference between me and Jessica. I didn't want to destroy her. I just refused to lie for her anymore. In the months that followed, I saw what she lost. Not in headlines or viral clips, but in the little things. Her name stopped getting invited to local panels. She was left off the charity gala guest lists. Even neighbors kept their distance. People didn't hate her. They just stopped believing her. And in her world, that was worse. Trust was her currency, and she'd spent it all. One of the last things our daughter Chloe said about her mother still echoes in my mind. "She's not evil," she said. "She just thought she'd always get away with it." She said it with sadness, not spite. And maybe that's the clearest view of Jessica I've ever heard. She wasn't a villain, not in her own eyes. She was just someone who thought the consequences would never catch up. That charm could outrun truth. That followers were the same as family. But when the camera shut off and the lights dimmed, there was no one left clapping. Just an empty comment section. And a life she couldn't filter her way out of.